During the week of Women's Day, my friend Shilpa, who runs Just Amazing, hosted me on their Instagram page for an IGTV live video. She wanted me to discuss mindfulness, tips for women entrepreneurs, generally tips for women to make their lives easier and smoother. And then the conversation just covered so many more really interesting topics. Shilpa asked a lot of great questions, and I really got into responding to them. At the end of the video, I thought, hey, this has got to go onto my podcast. I shared so much information in that interview. I just know that all of you are totally going to resonate with it. Hello. Welcome back to the Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus, and I'm so glad you could join me here today.
Welcome to this live chat session. Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to get down to introducing. Okay. For all of you who have joined in on this live chat, thank you very much for being here. It is a pleasure to have all of you being part of this conversation. Let me introduce to you Susmita Veganosaurus. That's how she likes to be called. For a lot of you, you might know her more as the co-founder of Carrot, but there are many feathers to this lady's cap. So let me just quickly summarize some of them. If you may not know it, but she is India's first vegan blogger. Okay? It's an accolade which she herself forgets very often. If in the year 2003, 2004, 2005, you wanted to look for Indian vegan recipes, there was nobody else writing about it but her. On her blogspot, which was, I think, veganosaurus.blogspot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's blog.veganosaurus.com. It's still there. I don't write on the blog anymore, but lots of recipes are there, archived from 2006 onwards till 2014.
Yes. And trust people, you should go check it out. It's got the simplest things you can do in your home. Including a tawa biscuit recipe, which, trust me, was my go-to for the longest time in life. Okay. Yes, she doesn't talk about it, but she's India's first vegan blogger. Then she went on to co-found Carrot, which was India's first vegan fine dining restaurant, which had some of the most outstanding food that you could ever get. It was a multi-cuisine restaurant which had the yummiest pastas, which were completely, of course, dairy-free, and she would make it soya-free for my sake, and, it's quite what used to turn out of that kitchen. And now, of course, Susmita has, ventured into doing a whole lot of things around the space and around a topic that matters a lot to her, which is mindfulness and abundance of joy and, optimizing joy and happiness in everything that we all do. For those who did not know Carrot in its initial days, before she became co-founder of Carrot, she held the title of being Mistress of Jollification.
Countess of Cuisine and Jollification. Oh my God.
Yes, Jollification. So, entire idea of being mindful, happy, joyful has always been a very integral part of your life and who you are. So, I'm going to kickstart this conversation by asking you the question of how did your journey into this entire idea of, optimizing joy and being mindful come about?
I can't pinpoint exactly where it started, but what I can say is that throughout my life, I've been, me, we went to school together. I've been one of those people who generally likes to, laugh a lot, joke, and generally be more joyful. And often, even if I did get upset, I always wanted to feel better. So I always looked for ways to feel better instead of trying to just, go into that spiral of feeling bad and worse and adding to that. And I didn't quite know how to do this exactly, but I knew that I always wanted to do this. And then, when carrots happened, it was my dream come true, because ever since I turned vegan, which was way back in 2003, and I started making my own recipes and, doing my experiments, I wanted a vegan place. And when I was invited to be a co-founder of Carrots, it was just basically whatever I wanted handed to me on a platter, a preset restaurant, because setting up was the thing that was stopping me. So I was like, yes, I love my job. I get to go and eat all this vegan food every day. I get to work. And I really, really enjoyed the whole process. But because of my over enthusiasm, I realized that a couple of years down the line, when I started taking more and more responsibilities, I also started burning out. I started overextending myself. I was not aware of creating boundaries. I was like always available to the guests, to the team. And, it's just like, oh, I love doing this, so I need to do everything I can to just be a part of it. And then I realized, as the years went by, maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, is when I realized this is not done and this is not sustainable, because you can't just keep, putting yourself into something without doing something for yourself, for your own happiness and joy. And I started realizing that the fun part of it, what I was enjoying, it started reducing more and more, because I was adding on more stress for myself. So that's when it was like, it dawned upon me that, I need to mindfully make sure that in the whole process of this, whatever, I'm running this business and it's doing great things in the world, but more important is I need to feel really fulfilled and joyful, and the fun should be higher than the stress and the anxiety. So that is where, a very clear thing came about.
So when you had that realization, that, you loved what you were doing so much that you were overextending yourself. And then you kind of said, this is not sustainable. I'm going to touch upon a phrase which I've heard you say. You've said it to me, in fact, in the past, about sustainable happiness. And I'm going to come to that in a minute. Okay. So what did you do? Did you have to talk to somebody about it? Was it a process of, journaling, self-realization? How did you make that change? Because I think any entrepreneur who's on this call and who's on this conversation will say that, how do you disconnect? Because running your own business is like having a baby. You can't switch off. You can't say somebody take care of this. Nobody does. You are on it 24/7. So what did you do?
I realized that I just had to disconnect, because like you said, baby, but then even with babies, they always say this on the flight, right? You wear the oxygen mask first before putting it on your kid. So if you are not functional and if you are not happy, I started realizing that even the business started to suffer. The whole environment, because I was the one who was holding things together. And if I was unhappy or I was drained and I was not able to do something, then people around me started experiencing this. And of course, that energy also hit the business. I could clearly see a difference. Whenever I made sure that I was happier, I could see a pickup in the whole energy. There would be more guests coming in, more orders coming in, more opportunities for us. But whenever I was not working from inspiration, but more in a desperation way, then things would not work out. It would just be a constant struggle. So I just made very sure. So to start with, I started taking a few days off work. And see, yes, I was very, very blessed with an amazing team. So I could delegate and leave it. But as an entrepreneur, a lot of us, we don't realize the potential of our team. We don't delegate the way we should. We feel like we should be their hands-on. We should be taking care of things. It's okay. I realize that even if it's an intern, if it's somebody new, and if they make some mistakes, and if that work is not up to what you would want it to be, it's still okay in many cases. As long as the food is tasty, the safety standards are maintained, and overall the atmosphere, all the other things, if somebody's taking a picture and posting it on social media or making an announcement about an event, for example, I didn't have to do it. If somebody else could, and it's okay if they were not doing it perfectly the way that I wanted it. And so delegation was one step. And taking off, of course, a few days a week. So I would go into work instead of going like 6 days a week. I would go into work maybe 3 or 4 days a week. And the other days I would take off and say, okay, this is like, I have to take time for myself, and I would still be available initially, still do stuff online, but over time I realized even that needs to reduce. I insisted on a weekly holiday for the whole team. That was very important. Now, initially, for many years, Carrots was run all the time. And not 24 hours, but like, they would start at 11 a.m. and go until 11 in the night, all 7 days of the week. And that made no sense to me. I realized that even though people were taking off in shifts, one, I was never getting an off. And two, even if people were taking off in shifts, there was still, some crossover being pulled and all. And I always realized that everyone needs 100% off. So that's when I insisted and made sure Tuesdays were off. Like, okay, let us just close it, That way you don't have to check social media, nothing, So taking off was key, and making others take off, not just me take off. And then another thing was, throughout my workday, I would make sure, again, we had a little park right across the street from us, which was very, it was an advantage for us. I would make sure that I would take little breaks and go at least once a day, but multiple times if required, go and have a couple of rounds by myself, no talking, no disturbing, no interacting in the park, just listening to podcasts that I love or music or whatever, So these little breaks throughout the day, it refreshed me. And I would especially do it even more if I felt stuck or upset or angry. I would get myself out of that environment, and it made a world of difference. So yeah, there is no how do you cut off, you just have to do it.
Yeah. So, which brings me to the other thing. Okay, so you've talked about the fact that, you need to physically disconnect sometimes. You just need to get away from where you are in order for your brain to also kind of disconnect. So that is one part of it. Then there are times, when a physical disconnection may not be possible, especially I think in the current environment that all of us are living in, which is, you're working from home, your children are at home, you're not going anywhere because you may be very scared to go to places. Therefore, the idea of physical disconnection may be a little hard at this point in time. And I think it's been very hard for many people over the last 12 months, and some have managed to kind of go back to work or go back to college and school and whatever else. But I think many people are choosing not to because there is still concern around, is it safe and so on and so forth. So what do you do when you can't physically disconnect? There are 3 rooms in the house and 4 people living in the house. What do you do?
You set at least some schedule. So this is where you have a time. You don't just say, okay, I just need an hour by myself. You set a specific time in the day where you keep it aside for, meditation, journaling, creativity, whatever it is that cuts you off from everything else. Switch off the damn phone. And then, you just habituate. It's like any other timetable, any other habit that you're forming with your family members, and you habituate them. Here's the thing, if you're 4 people in the house and there are 2 kids and 2 adults, then the adults can take turns, right? You take care of the kids for now, make sure they don't disturb me for this 1 hour. Even that little bit will make a world of difference. What you do under that, once you shut the door and you're like, okay, now I'm going to take what you do doesn't matter, but it becomes a habit. They know, okay, so mom's taking off 4 to 5, she will not be available, for example, or whatever suits your schedule. So definitely do that. But I had to go another step to this. So it's not enough to just physically disconnect. This is why I was talking about switching off your phone. We are inundated with distractions, digital distractions, and more so now we use the work from home as a reason or an excuse to even just get sucked more into it. So make sure you use the internet on your own terms.
You heard that, people, use the internet on your own terms. Yes, that is, I think you've touched upon a very valid point. The overuse of digital media digital, everything. I think we are all guilty of it. I keep saying I don't want to, but then I am on it. I am checking something. I am reading something. You're perpetually on it. I think, yeah, we talk about digital detox, but I think we find it very difficult to do that.
I can share a couple of tips that which have been working for me. I'm not claiming that I'm like, oh, never addicted to the internet. Even I keep going in cycles, keep going into Instagram, do things like that. I do stuff like that. But it's made a world of difference in my habits and my mental peace and, overall the refreshment, the creativity, the way I feel alert, everything by just following a few of these. First step is turn off all notifications. So no sounds, no badges, no notifications dropping down. Just do that. It's a world of, freedom. And then when you're not using the phone, and when you're not on the internet, you switch off the Wi-Fi on your phone or, the 4G on your phone. You just switch it off. Then what happens, that is when it becomes on your own terms. It's okay, even if you're going every hour, every half an hour to check everything. It doesn't matter because you're doing it because you are sitting down and deciding to do it. You spend an hour on there, whatever. But when you disconnect, you disconnect. You're not constantly distracted by messages, this, that. Even when you're online, the reason to switch off all these notifications is because if you're checking emails and then there's some message from somewhere, some other group, something, some other notification, the mind is just split into multiple things going here. And then when you do that, when you try to get back to your task, you're not able to get back very fast. The brain takes a lot of time to readjust, to that. So this is a reason you turn off your notification, makes a world of difference. One more thing is, if you can, do at least one day off the internet in a week. Do you see which is your least busy day? If it's a Sunday, whatever, just do one day off. I even recorded a podcast episode about this last year when I started the practice. And now it's been so many months and it's just been amazing, So Sundays are off for me. That's it. What happens? Initially, people will expect, see, this is the thing, right? We are part of a society. We've set this culture where like everybody expects immediate response, immediate reaction, immediate whatever. So it's actually up to us to change that culture. Nothing needs an immediate response. Nothing. So unless you have someone in the hospital or unless you're a doctor or, doing brain surgery, whatever, you don't need to constantly be. This applies to entrepreneurs. This applies to people who are in the corporate environment. Wherever you are, you don't have to constantly be available. That makes, again, that control. You get back that control of when you're checking, when you're responding. And that's amazing, So Sahana says, Sunday social media detox helps a lot. Thank you. Great. So yeah, you start with social media detox. If nothing else, if you can't do a complete internet detox, start with that. But what I do suggest is turn everything off and try it. It's magic.
Okay, we shall all take that under advisement. I think the thought of doing digital detox itself is a scary thought to many of us currently. Constantly paranoid. What if? But I guess we have to remind ourselves our parents survived without 30,000 of the things we do. So
we survived, for 20, 25 years we survived. Forget what parents. We used to go out to meet friends. All of us would decide, okay, at this time we'll meet here. No phones, no nothing. We would meet. It would work, so it's possible. It can happen.
We just have to remind ourselves that it can happen. Okay. So I'm going to kind of digress now. Move this conversation along to something called sustainable happiness. In fact, you threw that at me some weeks back when I was kind of talking to you and saying, yeah, there's so much happening. I don't know. It's all like, I usually kind of do a download from time to time. So sustainable happiness, you said that to me in that call, saying you have to be able to sustain what you're doing. And most importantly, you have to be able to sustain yourself to be able to do this again and again and to keep things going. So your happiness is linked to that. I don't think anybody thinks of happiness as something you have to sustain. I think we view happiness as something that is supposed to happen, if we kind of think it's supposed to happen, or I will do well in something, then I'll feel happy. Someone will be nice to me, I'll feel happy. I win a prize, I will be happy. I make a great dish and people say, wah, 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 I'm going to be happy. So, to link happiness more to these little incidents, but not something that you as an individual need to sustain. So, can you just elaborate on that idea a little bit?
See, we all know certain things that are going to make us happy. My cup of chai in the evening is going to make me happy. So I will take the effort to go make myself some chai and have it every evening and then sit and sip on it. So find, this is again where the disconnection helps, because it's going to give you time to contemplate, to think. What we think initially as, oh no, what am I going to do if I'm not online? I might get bored. But actually what it's going to do is help you really, constant, you're just like thinking, so many thoughts come into your mind and you realize, okay, what actually makes me happy? What actually keeps me fulfilled? And, you do these little activities which make things fun, make it joyful. So even at work, when it used to be very busy, I would always make sure that, especially on days when business was down, when the whole team was down, I would make sure to play some game, make some joke, something, and everybody has to get uplifted, right? Everybody is having fun. So ultimately, whatever you are doing in your life, let fun be your guide. Like, do it in such a way that you're having fun doing it as much as possible. It's not 100%, things do go out of hand, but you try to keep it in such a way that at least 70-80% of the of your work, of your life, is more enjoyable. Do you like sleeping in late and starting work late? Don't say, oh no, I have to get up early, crib. Turn things around and you make sure you're getting in that extra sleep and then get into starting whatever you're doing. You can do things. A lot of times we feel like we're obligated to do certain things. We feel like, oh, this is what is expected of me as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a wife, as a boss, as a daughter, whatever. So we kind of get stuck into those rules and those norms. But when you actually break them, you'll see most of the time nobody even cares. You're just having like, oh yeah, I'm having this nice time and it's not a big deal. So get out of this whole responsibility and guilt thing, because we are already taking on a lot of responsibility. And then see how you can enjoy yourself and make it joyful for people around you as much as you can.
Okay, so I think I'm just going to quickly summarize a few things you said. One is, don't feel guilty about taking time out for yourself. It's not something that you should feel bad about. Two, disconnect from your gadgets. Disconnect physically if you can from the environment in which you're operating, just so that you have that mind space to be able to kind of clear your thoughts, think things through. And look at yourself. It's okay to, I guess, be a little selfish and look at what makes you happy and focus on that. Because like Susmita says, you being happy enables people around you to also be happy. So you have to kind of tap in deep and do that. So I'm going to now move on to mindfulness. And you, I know, are a big proponent of mindfulness in every walk and sphere of life, right from, health choices one makes, to food choices that one makes, to how you look at life itself, how you deal with people around you. You also talk a lot about mindfulness in the context of women's menstrual health, So you actually look at mindfulness from a very holistic sort of perspective. So can you first and foremost break down how you decode mindfulness? What to you is mindfulness? And then we'll pick up each subtopic from there and go along.
Sure. See, this is continuing to be a learning curve for me too. I'm learning a lot about mindfulness as I go. It's not like I'm a mindfulness guru and I've got it down pat. Every time you have to remind yourself, every time you have to come. So anybody can do this. And mindfulness, yes, you can sit, meditate, be mindful while eating your food. All that is fine. That is also a way to be mindful. But mindfulness is also about just being fully present in whatever it is you're doing in this moment, in any point in your life. And then, being aware, why am I doing this? Or should I say what I'm about to say? things like that, being very, very aware. Where did this food come from? Especially in the food, I feel like if you're mindful in your food choices and think of the source of that, wherever it's coming from, that's going to just make a world of difference to people. So just being, absolutely present to to the maximum extent possible, trying to be present. And if your mind wanders, if things get distracting, you bring yourself back to that moment, whatever activity that you are doing at that moment.
Okay. All right. So I think that is brings me to another question, which someone had asked some time back, which is that how do you keep yourself in the present when you are so constantly multitasking? The brain is multitasking. You are saying, okay, I have to do this, then I have to think about, okay, what else do I have to do once I go back home? The brain is constantly got a checklist. And even maybe you're sitting in front of your laptop in your office and working on a project that you should be giving 100% of your brain space to, but you are not. So what does one do to quiet the mind, and quiet all the other things which are at the back, especially in the case of women, because I think women have to constantly say, okay, what do I have to go back and do for dinner? There's dinner to be thought about. Then there's some school project to worry about. I have to take care of this, that, the other. I think especially women, okay? And also because it's a Women's Day, we just finished Women's Day, we're celebrating Women's Month, and bulk of the people who've tuned in are women also. So I wanted to get a sense of, for women specifically, what is it that you would recommend?
See, that's again another thing, right? Putting this pressure of multitasking upon ourselves, so you don't have to be constantly thinking of everything all the time. And what will help there is, or what has helped me, I would personally say, is writing things down. So if I'm working on something and suddenly I get an idea about something, or I suddenly am reminded that, hey, I have to, like you said, school project for the kid or something, cooking. Oh, I have these vegetables sitting in my fridge, I need to finish them. Just take, pen and paper with you, if you a book with you, if you can. But if you can't, then no problem. Do it on your computer, maintain a list, and then just put it out there. So what happens is brain dump. It's out of your mind. It's not going at the back there, right? You're sorting it down. So when you sort it down onto the paper, it's like a big release of burden right there. And as you keep doing that, what you realize, two things. One is, okay, what are the things that have to do? So then you can plan and put it on your calendar or whatever way, or set alarms and things like that. I forget very easily. So say if I have an event coming and I'm looking forward to today's event throughout the week, but yet I know I will forget. So I set an alarm to go off at 5:50. So I'm here at that time, so that way. Set alarms, set reminders, and put things on the calendar to remind you. So you do that. And another thing that helps is that list that you're making, once you start checking it off, often we think we aren't doing enough because there's so much to do that we aren't doing enough is what we think. But when we look at that list and just like tuck, and forgive yourself if you're not able to check off from the list. That's important, But if as you keep checking things off, you feel like this deep sense of achievement, like, oh, I've done so much, I've achieved this much. And what is actually important, what is not even again on the list. When you see things, you'll be able to prioritize things. So make a list. That is one thing. Second thing is, wherever you are, keep taking little breaks in the middle of your work and whatever you're doing, you're reading, or if you're online or playing, whatever it is you're doing, take breaks once in a while to take 3 deep breaths. Nothing like that to bring you into this moment, like right into the moment, just that breathing and just focusing on that 3 breaths. It's not like you're meditating even for a minute there. And that pulls you back right to where you are. So brain dump, deep breaths.
Okay, dump, deep breaths. Okay, those are good things to hold on to, people. And those are good practices, I guess, that we could all try and get into our day-to-day lives. Lists, brain dump, deep breaths. Very important. Okay, I'm in the context of mindfulness. I know you coach entrepreneurs. Okay, you have started doing that in the last few months.
Yeah.
Mindfulness in the context of being an entrepreneur. What do you advise?
everything that basically I have learned the hard way and I've been applying to my life, I coach the entrepreneurs to apply that in their life. I try to get them to do it the easy way. So everything that I have shared about the delegation, about planning things and not taking on too much, about taking time off. You were talking about menstrual health, menstrual awareness. So that also, I tell my coaching clients that, you know what, this week you're going to get your period, take off. Don't even plan anything for that time. It's okay. Everything else can wait. Because what you want to do in that time is just take care of yourself and be in that energy and just enjoy it. So everything that I've learned, everything that I've shared now, this is basically what I teach the entrepreneurs.
And what are the common kind of problems you see that entrepreneurs face when they come to you for coaching? What are the common problems you see them dealing with?
These days, something that I've been passionate about teaching, about speaking about, has been to develop an abundance mindset. So this is something where we all create blocks to the abundance. So abundance is not just about being positive and attracting and manifestation. It's also about, figuring out what is stopping you from receiving what is meant to be coming to you. And this is something that I often coach. It comes up. It's like a standard thing that comes up. Couple of the blocks. One is lack of boundaries. Because if you don't have boundaries, you're not enjoying yourself. If you train your customers to believe that at 2 a.m. in the night, they can message you and say, tomorrow I need this product. If you are going to allow that to happen, then you're not going to be happy. It's not sustainable in the long run. So boundaries is one thing. Another is this fear of competition, this fear of putting their knowledge or their beautiful creations out into the world because someone may steal it. But I always tell people that you are unique and what your product is you. It's not about. So someone can take the exact same thing, copy it, call it the same name, whatever it is that they do, whatever it is they take away from it, they are not taking away from you. That is their lack mentality. That's it. And it doesn't matter because it's not going to hurt you because people come to you for you. You are unique and that is a uniqueness that can never be taken. And breaking out of that really helps because that is when you're going to delegate more. Because that fear of teaching, that is when you're going to be more generous with your information online. Collaboration is so important. And I constantly encourage all the entrepreneurs in this, in this vegan sector, particularly women, lift each other up, support each other. It creates magic. I've seen that happen when I was with Carrots too. It's like you have somebody who, who's in a very unique position to understand what you're going through. So share with them instead of, being afraid. Oh, and valuing yourself. Oh my God, yes. People are afraid to pay themselves or charge what they are worth because of what others may say, this fear again, and this comes in a conscious entrepreneurship, especially because you are doing this for a bigger cause. So, but that doesn't mean you have to, undervalue yourself either, so that is something that's very important that people need to be aware of.
Okay. That's helpful because I think you're right, especially when it comes to, the fear of competition, the valuing yourself. I think a lot of entrepreneurs especially have that problem where they say, I shouldn't be paying myself. I shouldn't be taking time off. I shouldn't be doing all of this because there's a larger cause that I'm doing this for. Yeah. So I think that is very, very helpful. You also do a series of podcasts and you do some very, very interesting podcasts. Okay. People who are on this chat, please go check it out. Susmita, could you please tell us how they can access your podcast?
Sure. If you just go to the link in my bio, which is my website, veganosaurus.com, everything is accessible from there. My podcast, if you want to directly find it on any of your podcast players, it's called The Feel Good Factor by Susmita Veganosaurus. So just search for The Feel Good Factor. It should come up.
So I'm going to touch upon what you called your podcast, which is The Feel Good Factor. Okay. And you've been running this for a year or so now. I think, right? You've covered
little more than a year, yeah.
So I'd say about 15 or, I don't know, 15 plus topics.
15 plus months.
15 plus months, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, there you talk about your love for all things that make people good, and you talk about the fact that even in adversity, you have to look for the good in what happens. So I know you coach clients. So how do you cope with clients who've gone through extreme adversity and you have to try and bring them out of it? How do you manage that?
See, I'm not a life coach and I'm not a professional. So I haven't taken on clients who've gone through extreme adversity. So my ideal client is somebody like me who has gone through the kind of adversities that I have gone through. But that is why I'm coaching entrepreneurs, vegan entrepreneurs, of course. That's an ethical thing. But also I do say that, I prefer to work with women entrepreneurs, though there have been some men who have taken, again, coaching from me, and they're absolutely fine. It's only because, again, it's my unique experience as a woman entrepreneur that I can actually help others with. So, like I was saying, like talking about menstrual health, and I'm telling, so I'm able to help another woman better because of my experience. And if somebody has gone through a lot more adversity than I can imagine or handle, I wouldn't take that on myself because I'm not trained enough to do so, and I haven't had somebody. But yeah, simple stuff, personal stuff that does come across sometimes into the conversation about the business, which I'm able to give some simple advice on. I handle that.
Okay. All right. Great. So I'm now going to go into what the title of your talk was, which is When Life Gives You Lemons. So the old adage is that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But you are someone who will say when life gives you lemons, first enjoy the color of the lime, the fragrance of the lime, enjoy how it touches, how it feels, and then maybe think about making lemonade with it.
There's a series called Ginny and Georgia on Netflix. In that she says, if when life gives me lemons, I'll make lemon pie, lemon cake, lemonade, lemon pie, lemon cake. I'll make all of it, Yeah, so I really resonated with that too. So yes, appreciate the abundance that you have. Be grateful for what you've got. That appreciation and being happy, and just all of us, that it's not like everybody's equally privileged. Yes, some people have more privilege than others, but whatever privilege you do have, whatever good things you do have, try to appreciate them more, and acknowledge that, and that really, really helps. And yes, when you look at the lemon, like, and you'll see my website, like there's this big lemon tree, which was like just bursting with lemons, and my excitement, and my friend Ali captured that so well, literally hugging the lemons, and whatever, right? So be excited, basically be excited about things, be an enthusiastic cutlet like I am, that really helps. So, and then yes, take advantage of it in whatever best way you can, learn the lessons from it in whatever best way you can.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is look around you and enjoy what you can. Now, let's get down to talking about what has governed all of our lives in the last 12 months, COVID. What changes did you see in the clients you were coaching or the people you were dealing with professionally through COVID, and what are the lessons you've taken away from there, which you think people need to be a little more cautious and mindful of now, going into possibly another few more months before, life starts getting significantly better for most people? So what was your pre-COVID? What were the concerns that people were talking about? Now, through COVID and post-COVID, what is the shift that you have seen?
So I was not coaching pre-COVID. I was doing my podcast and I was doing the restaurant. While I was doing the restaurant, there was not much else I could be doing, right? It was the main part of my life. Yes, I was teaching classes as a part of the restaurant, the cooking and baking and stuff, but not really coaching people. So the coaching is a fairly recent thing, maybe about 6 months, So it's in the middle of COVID that I started doing the coaching. And this is where I say, be ready to pivot. You never know what's going to happen with your industry. You never know. That's the one thing we've all learned because of COVID, is that nothing is, predictable. You cannot say, there is no certainty, right? So you be ready to change. You can either sit and then go like, oh no, I'm stuck at home, oh no, my business closed, oh no, this is happening, and just go into that spiral, or go into this, okay, now I have this time, all this extra time, so how do I use it to do other things? How do I follow interests that I may not have pursued before because I didn't have that time before? Try to look into various options, try new things. And this is something I've seen, not exactly from my coaching clients, but generally in entrepreneurs around myself and people, where so many people who had a corporate job kind of got into entrepreneurship when the COVID thing happened, because they're like, yeah, there is no guarantee in life. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, so let me do it. So same thing goes even to entrepreneurs. Is there something you've been wanting to do? Even if it's creating a new business, fine. If not, even if it's like taking time to just study and learn and, just for self-improvement. I believe that is such an important thing, invest in yourself and pay for classes and go online, do things where you are studying and you're just uplifting yourself. So be ready to pivot. And I feel like the most difficult thing that happened to me because of COVID was shutting down of Carrots, which was like really, painful after all these years. But that being said, it also opened up all kinds of other things for me. I'm doing all my multiple businesses. I'm doing my, the coaching, of course, the mentoring, I keep doing classes once in a while. I have created an online course about how to be a joyful vegan. So many things that I wasn't able to do before, I'm able to do that. So look at it as an opportunity and try to get the best of it as much as you can. You have time now, and you may not have this kind of a time again. You may just get back into the rat race again, and you may not want to, go back into things the way they were before. Nobody should be going back to things the way they were before. It has to be a better version of yourself going back out there.
Okay. So basically you're saying that COVID has come with its own sets of advantages where people have seen possibly beyond whatever was their current state at that point. Like you said, you might have been doing a job, so you said, okay, now is the time to follow my passion and things like that. So coming to, yes, you did touch upon the fact that, Carrot shutting down was not easy, and I can only imagine how hard it must have been. And COVID has, I think, seen many businesses having to kind of make very, very tough decisions. Okay. So what is it that you would want to convey to entrepreneurs who have to make tough choices? It may not be about shutting down a business, but you may need to kind of make some very tough choices. It could be that you have to let somebody very dear to you go. So how do you what is your advice to people who have to make those tough choices?
Look on the future of, once you made the choice, what's going to happen. Because the example of what you said, letting somebody very dear to you go. So middle of June last year, we had to send a bunch of our team, like most of our team, back home, because they're like, you go home, you be safe. We are also not able to take care of you right now. And we had to do all. It was not actually letting them go. At least at that point, we didn't think that. We thought October, November, they'll all be back. That was our thought at that time. But the idea of even sending them back home at that time, that was very difficult for us. But at that point, what we were thinking of was, when we send them away, there's going to be a reduction in our overheads, our stress, so we can sustain the business a little longer, and then we can bring them back. It's good for everybody rather than shutting down right now, because those were our options. So look on the future. You have to see how making this choice, taking this, the step, this decision is going to be for the greater good. And don't get into guilt. Don't get into this thing of, oh no, I'm doing this just for the business, or, something like that. Don't try, because you can do it in a very nice way too, right? So when we let our guys, we sent them back home, we made sure to, book all the flight tickets and whatnot. And, and until till the last day that they were living under our roof, they were our responsibility. And we made very sure to take care of them. So you can do it in a nice way too. You can do the best that you can, and that's all we can do. We can all do the best that we can do. Another thing is, if it is a constant struggle, please take it as a sign that it is time to let go, because things should not be a constant struggle. Even if struggles come, which will come in any business, if it's a struggle but you're able to overcome it and then move on, and then you face another hurdle at some point. But if it's just resistance, you're always fighting against something, trying to move up, if that is the case, that is not your path. You're not meant to live that way. We are meant to have as easy lives as we possibly can for ourselves. We are meant to do that for ourselves. So look at what privilege you do have. If you can let go of your business and still survive, then do it. Do it in the best way possible, but do it.
Okay. Letting go. I think the human struggle with letting things go is possibly the hardest. It could be, a job. It could be letting go of someone you care about because, it's better for them. It could also be in terms of choices which we're making, So we all have different forms of things that we are addicted to. Digital addiction being, I think, the biggest thing these days. I know that, you transitioned into being a vegan because of what you had read while you were in the US and things like that. So how difficult was it for you to let go of, very traditional cultural food practices in order to go vegan?
That's the funny part, right? I thought it was all about giving up. I had that misconception in my mind back then. At least now there's so much information available. There wasn't enough back then to say that, what, it's not giving up, right? But I decided, okay, I have to align with the ethics now that I've made this choice, and then that's it. I'm not going to have all this stuff anymore. But then I'm always looking for alternatives, looking for new things. This comes from just happiness. So you can make yourself happy and be joyful without harming somebody else, and that's very possible. In fact, you can make yourself more joyful by consuming things which aren't hurting anybody else. It's a higher vibe, a higher energy. So I started looking into alternatives immediately, and I learned. So again, you be an adventurer. You go to it. Whatever you take on, whatever you let go of, whatever you get into, do it with curiosity. Okay, what is going to come out of this? Let me see. What are the possibilities hidden here? Get those possibilities out. And I was able to, come up with, okay, vegan curds, vegan cake, vegan cookies. What else do you need? Chocolate, whatever. So I was able to figure out how to do it pretty soon. So it's not as difficult as you think it may be when it comes to going vegan. And I do believe in many cases, many transitions in your life, it's your mind telling you that it's hard, it'll be tough, don't listen to that. Try it. And if you need to trick yourself into it, do it also. Don't think of it as permanent. Think of, if it helps you, think of it as, I'm going to do this for a month. Just that thing, that fear of commitment, get it out of the way. And I've advised this to so many people over the years, try it for just 1 month, but do it strictly. Everybody has stuck on. So approach it with curiosity. Whatever it is, you have to let go of. If it's a relationship, letting go of somebody you love, again, I know it's not easy, but then when you let go, think of what are the possibilities and what exactly. Sometimes if you're meant to let go, it's taken away from you by force. You can't do anything about it, right? So what you need to focus on is, when this person was in my life, when this business was in my life, when whatever was in my life, what are the things that I wanted to do? What are the things that were good for me, which I wasn't doing, but now I'm able to? And try to focus on the future. Next step,
Okay. So basically, I like your idea of saying curiosity. Be curious. Look at what is better for you out there. Okay. It's interesting. We're 49 minutes in. We're down to the last 11 minutes and we have covered a lot of ground. I really like your reference of what they say in an aircraft, which is first put the mask on yourself, before you put it on your child, infant, or anybody else, because unless you save yourself, there is very little you will be able to do to save somebody else or to move things forward. So thank you so much. It is, if I've been writing and taking very quick notes while you've been speaking, and I have managed to fill in an entire page. Okay. So it's very interesting that, how much ground you have covered in 15 minutes. Just before we wind up the conversation, I wanted you to spend a little bit of time talking to and inform everybody who's on this conversation right now, to talk about what it is that you are coaching people on. Where can they find you? I know you have different types of programs. You have the podcast, you have other things. So could you just quickly tell us what all you're doing and how people can reach you?
Sure. The best way to reach me, of course, is my Instagram, which is Veganosaurus, Veganosaurus. I keep posting. I'm very active. So that's the one social media I'm active on. I don't have Facebook. I don't have anything else. So Instagram is where I'm really active. I interact. I really like interacting with people and listening to how anything that I have shared has made an impact on their lives, where they could actually practically apply it into their lives, or it made them think like, oh yeah, made their lives a little better, happier, more joyful. And my website is veganosaurus.com. And if you go there, you'll find a link to my podcast. You can listen to all the podcast episodes right there on the website or on your favorite podcast player. It's called the Feel Good Factor. You can also find, the page where I talk about, under the Engage Me section, I talk about my coaching sessions for vegan entrepreneurs, what I do, how I work, the way it goes. It's a holistic coaching. That's what I call it, because it's not just the business and the marketing part of things. It's barely that. In fact, it's more of, again, self-love, self-care. What can you do better for the community and things like that? And how to be conscious and, caring and of yourself first above all else. And I also teach online dairy alternatives classes, because for me, I realized that learning to make dairy alternatives just changed my life. That's it. You just need to learn that. That's it. And everything else will, fall into place. So I teach that. I teach one-to-one private dairy alternatives classes online. I also have a course called the Vegan Immersion Experience, and it's for people who are transitioning into veganism, who are curious, who are already vegan for many, many years also. It's all about, your mind, body, spirit. That's the angle I take in all my courses. And it's about how you can be a joyful vegan. Enjoy the process. That's what's important. Not just be a vegan, but how you can do it. So there's a foundation for food. There's mindfulness practices and, things for the soul, like a meditation and all kinds of stuff like that. And I also have a course called Ignite Your Joy, which is just a 5-day, deep dive course. And every day there are 3 things. Again, mind, body, soul. This is how I always take everything. So mind would be, how you can actually be happy and different aspects of that, how you can introduce more joyfulness in your daily life, in little ways. And then your body, which is the kinds of foods you can eat and what you can do there to make yourself feel more happy. And then the soul, where every day there's a meditation related to the topic that I have covered that day. So yeah, these are a bunch of the things that I do. Just go to my website, veganosaurus.com, and you'll find everything there.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for this lovely, lovely, lovely conversation. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. It's
Same
always
here,
a pleasure. All people who tuned into this conversation, thank you very, very much for being there. We both hope that you enjoyed the conversation and did get to learn some things from there. We will, of course, have this chat available on our Instagram handle for a while. So if anybody found this interesting and wants to share it with a friend who missed it out or whatever, feel free. And if you have any questions, you can leave it on the post, and Susmita or I, depending on the nature of the question, will be more than happy to answer it. Have a great evening, everyone. To all the women out there, thank you for being who you are. So thank you all for joining in, and we would love to hear back from you. And thank you, Susmita. Thank you for all the
Thanks,
listeners.
Shilpa, and thanks everybody for watching. It was lovely.
It was absolutely splendid. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening, everybody. Okay, thank you.
Bye. I hope that conversation brought a lot of value to you. If you live in India, make sure to check out Shilpa's brand, Just Amazing. I'm going to share a link in the show notes as well as in the episode's webpage. I just love their products. They started out making nut butters and have now expanded to a wider range of very creative nut and seed based products. And they're a very, very conscious brand. The brand is, first of all, completely vegan. It's also soy free and gluten free. Plus, they package in glass jars and they're very caring about the environment. So, definitely check out their website and order their products, and they ship across India. And if you're ordering for the first time, use my code Veganosaurus10 and you'll get 10% off. So, I'm also going to post the code in the show notes and the webpage. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again very soon. Bye!